Alright, this represents the first of two focus lessons of Chapter 1, Section 5. Make sure your textbooks are open to page 34. What we're going to do is look at adding positive and negative numbers, or what we call integers. Yes, your calculator can do these if you just type them in, but if you don't have an understanding of how positive and negative numbers work together, it's going to cause issues. So that's why we're going to actually use section or problem 1, as it said, to kind of see what's going on here. It says 3 plus 5. What's the sum of each part? Use a number line. 3 plus 5, what they did here to make a model, and this is just something to help us understand what the numbers do. 3 plus 5 looks to me like they started at 3, and then because it's plus 5, they went to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and they ended off at 8. Which isn't big because we've done that for years, but the thing that we haven't done, a lot of us at least, is 3 plus negative 5, which again means start at 3 because that's the first number, but the negative 5 means we're going to go to the left 5 steps. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 puts me at negative 2, which is why you see here that the answer is negative 2. Again, this is where it gets interesting. Negative 3 plus 5, again, something we probably haven't seen. This means start at negative 3 because that's the first number. Plus 5 again means go to the right, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and notice that we are at 2. And then negative 3 plus negative 5, again starting at negative 3. This negative 5 means go to the left 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you again notice that we end off at negative 8. So pretty much the model there is just to make sure that we at least have an understanding of what the numbers are doing, so that we don't make any crazy mistakes. So let's go back to number 11 and look at this. Negative 3 plus 8, using the number line. Please just make sure you put this in your notes so you at least have it. And you don't really need to do all the jumping, but we are going to at least add marks. So negative 3 plus 8. The plus 8 means we are going to the right. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 marks. And then just fill in your number line. Negative 3 going this way goes to negative 2, negative 1, 0. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so our answer is 5. Now, if you don't like the number line way, you can also use what the numbers represent. Negative 3 means that there are 3 negatives there. Positive 8 means there are 8 positives there. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And what happens anytime a negative and a positive meet is that they cancel. And you end up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 positives, which you see represented right there as a positive 5. Either one of those works. Just make sure you kind of get one of these down so you can visualize what's going on. Looking at number 13, 1 plus negative 6, number line way, we start with 1. The negative 6, because it's negative, means we go to the left, so we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we fill in the rest of the numbers. 1 going backwards leads to 0. Negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5, which means our answer is negative 5. Using negatives and positives, this would represent a positive 1 or 1 positive. This would represent 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 negatives. Positive and negative cancel out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 negatives left over, which you see represented here. Does not matter which one you pick, just try to find some way that gets the job done for you so you understand what happens with negatives and positives. 9 plus negative 3 is the last one that we're going to do today, again starting with negative 9. Negative 3 means go to the left, so we go 3 backwards. Keep in mind that numbers get bigger on your negative side here, so negative 9 goes to negative 10, negative 11, negative 12 as your answer. Or, again, you can put down 9 negatives, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 3 negatives, 1, 2, 3. And because there's no negative and positive, nothing cancels and they all just work together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 negatives, which you see represented here. The general rule that we're going to do is you add the absolute value, and absolute value just means that if you're talking about negative 3, is 3 steps from 0. So your number is 3. If you're talking about a positive 3, it's also 3 steps from 0. So absolute value just means how far is it from 0. Don't put any negatives on it, just work with the absolute value. So it's saying that when the signs are the same, we add the absolute values. When the signs are different, we subtract the absolute values, and that the larger value gets the sign. So I'm going to turn this page over, and I'm going to rework these questions. We had -3 plus 8 as one of our answers. And this is really what we're going to be doing for the second part and pretty much the rest of those, because you don't want to do positive and negative signs. If you're looking at -75 plus 156, can you imagine doing 156 steps to the right, or putting down 75 negatives and 156 negatives and canceling them out? So at some point you have to kind of get an understanding, and this is where this comes from. What we do here is we recognize that signs are different. Based off of our notes, when the signs are different, it says subtract the absolute values. So you take the bigger number minus the smaller number without the sign. So you have 8 minus 3 is what we're thinking about here. Based off of what I know, 8 minus 3 is 5. And then it tells me that the larger number gets the sign. And so that means I look at the 8, which is the bigger number. 8 is positive, which means my answer is +5, which if you look at your notes matches exactly what was there. You don't need to write this part. This is just me discussing what we're going to be doing next, by the way. The second question we did was 1 plus -6. Again, in this situation the signs are different, so that means we're going to subtract. So you take the bigger number, or the bigger number, absolute value, which is 6 steps from 0, minus the smaller number, which is 1. 6 minus 1 is 5. If you look at the bigger number, it's negative. That's why our answer, if you look at your notes, it verifies it is -5. And then the last question we worked on was -9 plus -3, which if you look at this, the signs are the same. Both of them are negative, which means we add the values. So we have 9 altogether overall plus 3 altogether overall, which makes 12. Looking at the bigger number for our sign, it's negative. That's why we ended up with -12. And again, you don't need that for everything, but I think you want to learn that pretty quickly, because your calculator cannot simply type in all these values, and we'll find that out in just a second. 17 plus -28, which is number 19 on this question here. The first thing that you want to write in your notes, again, because we're going to kind of, I guess you could call it growing up really fast, is that we don't want to have to do the positives and negatives in the number line. So what we're going to do is look at this in our minds and think this is different. The signs are different. And because the signs are different, we are going to subtract. So what we do is we think bigger number, which is 28 steps from 0, minus smaller number, which is 17 steps from 0, gives me, I think it's 11. And then you say the bigger number in this problem is 28. 28 is negative, so my answer is -11. 23 gives me -9 plus -2. First thing we want to do is look and recognize the signs are the same. This means that we add them up. So we're going to take -9, which is 9 steps from 0, plus -2, which is 2 steps from 0, giving us 11. Then you go back, say the bigger number in the problem is negative, and so my answer is -11. 25 says 5.1 plus -0.7. Here again, that's a positive, that's a negative. My signs are different, so we are going to subtract. So we do 5.1, which is 5.1 steps away from 0, minus 0.7, because that's 0.7 steps away from 0. Pretty much just take the signs off the numbers. 5.1 minus 0.7, if you don't know, you can throw in the calculator and get 4.4. And again, the bigger number in this problem is positive, so we end up with a positive 4.4. And then 29 gives us 7/9 plus -5/12, which, working through this, first off, it's fractions. Second off, for those of you who might have just been typing these in and getting the answers, you can't type this into your calculator in the calculators that I give you, so this is why we really need to understand it. First off, in fractions we have to have a common denominator, And what I usually do whenever I need a common denominator is count by the bigger number until it works. So 12, I'll start with 9 does not go into 12. The next number for 12 is 24, because 12 times 2 is 24. 9 doesn't go into 24. Add 12 more to that, you get 36. 9 does go into 36, which means that this is the number I want to use. So 36 goes on the bottom of both of these. Now what we're going to do is say 9 times 4 is what makes 36. This turns us into 28. Here 12 times 3 makes 36, which turns us into 15. Then we want to get the problem back the way it's supposed to be, which is with a negative on that second fraction. From there, what we do is we follow what we just learned, which is to recognize that these two signs are different, which means we're going to subtract. 28 is the bigger number. We don't even care about the 36 because that carries over anyway, but 28 minus 15, which gives us 13. And in the end, we have to put it back in fraction mode. The bigger fraction is positive, so it's a positive for answer, but our answer is positive 13 over 36. Be sure to work on this very well. Again, if you don't get the strong understanding of why it's positive, how the numbers change, it's going to make for a very tough experience in algebra. So again, be sure you're asking questions on this as you work through the questions that I give you in class.